Greetings, Fredericksburgians of Unity. Good morning, and thank you so much for having me back. Really great to be with you in this virtual way. I have some fun ideas and thoughts I want to share with you about big mysteries, big questions, so big that we might never be able to get answers to, unanswerable questions. And what I think is the healthiest and most helpful attitude to have about these big mysteries. So this is called a brief mystery of God. Now, to get into this, I'd like to just tell you that I joke that I have achieved the coveted NCW degree. NCW, no credentials whatsoever. Excuse me, but the truth is that I did graduate from college. I did escape from college with a real degree, a BS. Yeah, a BS in geology. That's true. You know, I joked that I wanted to be a rock star, so anyway, I'm fascinated by the big questions of geology, the age of the universe, the age of our Earth, how these planets formed out of this gas and dust that is now our solar system, and how our planet has evolved over time and become the planet that it is today. How 3.5 billion years ago, somehow out of inorganic matter, life arose. Organic matter arose. It's still a big mystery. We don't know. And how out of all these possibilities of evolution for 3.5 billion years, suddenly at this little micro moment in geologic time, you and I get to be the dominant species for a while. Fascinated by all of this, and also how all of these geologic processes that continue every day affect our experience of existence. So, really interesting to me. I read about it all the time. But it wasn't long after I got out of college that I realized I was even more interested in what I think of as bigger mysteries. Like, what is God? If there is a God, what is God like? What is consciousness? This amazing ability we have to self-reflect and plan and project and imagine and dream. What is death? And what happens to consciousness after death? What is love? What are women really thinking? Big mysteries. So I thought we could have some fun with a couple of these this morning, and I'll illustrate how I like to approach these and why I think it's good. Okay, so I feel like the logical place to start is with God. God is kind of the big mystery. And if we accept the idea that there is a God, then the next logical question is, what is God like? We all want to know what God is really like, and you'll notice that down through the centuries, people have tried to tell us. Whether they knew or not, they thought they knew, or they pretended that they knew, and they have tried to tell us what God is really like. And I'm sure you've noticed that there's a lot of disagreement about this. But what I find fascinating is that my idea of what God is like has changed over time, dramatically. 40 years ago, and now it's completely different what I think about God. And this cracks me up because I doubt if God has changed much in 40 years. I just don't think so. So I thought that was funny. I thought that was worth a song. So my friend Richard Helm, my co-writer, we wrote a song called A Brief History of God. Now, you already know that I'm a science guy, and I try to slip that into the songs every once in a while. So in the last part of this song, we bring in some physics. I confess, I had trouble with physics in college. When I signed up, I thought it said psychics. Not exactly the same thing. So there's a theory, a new concept in physics called string theory, how everything's made up of these little tiny vibrating strings. You might have heard that term, string theory. So this song is called A Brief History of God, or G-string theory. In the beginning, beginning there was lots of competition. Goddesses and gods of every disposition, from merciful to mean, from laid back to hyper, and little baby gods that flew around in diapers. Animals, pranksters, destroyers, creators, flute players, lute players, and insensators. So many gods it was hard to keep them sorted. God had multiple personality disorder. Well, keeping track of all these gods was no fun. So finally some people said, let's cut it down to one. But the one god was angry, always finding fault. There was banishment and floods and pillars of salt. Well, why? Was God traumatized at an early age by standing too close to the Big Bang? Was it nature or nurture or Satan's little goblins? God had anger, management problems. And God had other issues that mess with serenity, like this long-term question of sexual identity, the feminine divine or the male autonomous. God was so confused. Am I androgynous? Then on top of that, what was challenging the most was trying to figure out what the heck's the Holy Ghost. God needed time off and checked into a clinic. Poor old God was becoming schizophrenic. While in for treatment, God sent some folks to teach us, like Krishna and Buddha, Muhammad and Jesus. On some things they agree, on other things they don't. And if you choose the wrong one, some say your soul is toast. Now everybody's praying by all these different rules. Muslims 5 times a day, Buddhists quite a few, Hindus, Jews, and Christians whenever there's a need, and Unitarians would rather plant a tree. Well, God's come a long way from that early dysfunction, and now science has brought us to this beautiful junction. The key to the theory is that every single thing is made up entirely of vibrating strings. Well, this is what musicians have known all along. The universe is really one big song. And there you have it, friends. That's the story so far. We're all just musical strings in God's big guitar. It's a happy thought, isn't it? We're always vibrating. We never stop. We're constantly in vibration. So the trick is to stay in tune. Stay in tune. Now, relationships are a lot about staying in tune. And a lot of people have told us through history that God is love. God is love. And we like that answer. We like that explanation. God is love. That feels good, really, because what feels better than love? God is love. Well, again, as an observer, what's interesting and kind of funny to me about this is we use this one word, love, for such a huge range of emotional experiences. You know, we have divine love, earthly love, motherly love, brotherly love, fated love, jaded love, mystical love, physical love, unrequited love, unconditional love, puppy love, love of chocolate chip cookies, and the biggest mystery still, to me, romantic love. Romantic love. The reason this is such a big mystery to me is I just find it fascinating that we can have so much chemistry with one person, so much attraction and chemistry, and with another person who's equally attractive, nothing. There's just nothing there. And you know, also sometimes love is just so enormously strong for a period of time, but then it fades. Romantic love. That's what I'm talking about. Sometimes it fades and then it's gone and it's like we don't even know why. Right? So let me ask you this. How many of you believe in or have experienced love at first sight? Okay? All right, that's about half of you. Well, I have to say, it's happened to me a lot. And it usually goes something like this. A man is riding on a train. He's heading south, it starts to rain. He sings a soft and sad refrain. He thinks he'll never love again. On the other track, a train is heading north through the rain. A woman looks out her window pane. Her life has been a lonely game. The two trains pass, they're moving fast. Faces flicker past, for half a beat. Their two eyes meet, and instantly they both can see that they were meant to be. Yes, it happened just like that. It hit them like a thunderclap. Somehow they had seen the answer to their dreams, passing on the other track. So at the next stop he gets off. A love like that must not be lost. He takes the next train heading north. He does not know she's done the same. So they pass again for half a beat. Their two eyes meet, and instantly they both can see they were not meant to be. Well, she knew someday would have to end. She wonders if they'll still be friends. Somehow, he had seen the answers to his dreams disappear around the bend. He will never be the same. Deep in his heart, she will remain. He looks out through the falling rain. Thinks he'll never love again. I think he's gonna love again. And again and again and again and again. I always miss that chord. Okay, so maybe you've had a relationship like that. Brief. You know, Linda Berry, the cartoonist, said, love is a exploding cigar we willingly smoke. Love is an exploding cigar we willingly smoke. I love that. John Bradshaw, remember him? John Bradshaw? He said that falling in love is, in reality, a high-octane endocrine hormone cocktail. And what we know from science is that this high-octane endocrine hormone cocktail that comes with falling in love fades. Generally from 6 to 18 months, the cocktail fades. And the hormones go back to their original settings, whatever they were in our bodies before. So, for the relationship to last beyond the hormone cocktail, it has to be based on something else other than that cocktail. Something deeper, more profound, maybe even something sacred, right? Right, so I feel like instead of this one word for love, we should at least have two words. You know, the Greeks had four. We should at least have two. You know, that there was agape for divine love, brotherly love, mystical love, the giving kind of love. And then there was eros for romantic love, sexual love. So we should at least have those two words for love. And that way, you know, if we wanted to tell somebody we loved them, but we didn't want there to be any confusion, we could say, I agape you. And, you know, then it's obvious. It's not going to happen. Okay, I'm back. So love is a word that I use with music. I love music. I can't imagine a world without music. My life without music. Can't imagine it. I love music. I love this guitar. I love all my guitars. I have a few. And I've got this one out because I want to tell you a story. I love this guitar. Very pretty, isn't it? Very special guitar. Well, before I loved this guitar, I loved a different guitar. Yeah, it was even prettier than this. It was blonde because it was made out of maple, so it had this very unusual, striking blonde finish. It was bigger than this guitar, and I had it for years and years, been through all kinds of experiences with this guitar, and we get very, very attached to our instruments, we musicians. So I love this guitar. As much as I love this guitar, I started having this idea that I wanted a different guitar. The hormone cocktail was over. No, what I was I wanted a guitar that was a little smaller, that fit me better, easier to travel with, that finger-picked a little better, like this one does, and maybe sounded a little different acoustically. So I started wanting a new guitar, and the more I thought about it, the more I wanted it. And as time went on, a few weeks or months went by, this became a really strong desire. But I wasn't doing anything about it. I was not doing one thing about it because I don't like shopping for guitars. 2 reasons. One is I'm picky. It's hard for me to find one I like. It takes a lot of time. You have to play a lot of guitars usually. And 2, a lot of guitar stores are staffed by what we could call young rock musicians. Now, this is not a knack on young rock musicians because I used to be one. This is not a knock on them, I mean, because I used to be one. But tell me if in your mind these 2 things go together. Young rock musicians, great customer service. Not always. Not always. So I'm putting it off until fate intervenes in the Honolulu airport in the form of a woman I will just call Attila the gate agent. Now, you've probably met Attila or one of her sisters or one of her brothers. We've all, at some point, I think, run into Attila in the airport. This woman, to this day, I do not know what her deal was. Bad lunch, power trip, whatever. But I am walking up to the gate counter in Honolulu with my guitar in my soft case, so it's over my shoulder. It's nice and light, easy to carry, the way I fly with it every week. And I'm walking up to the gate counter, and she's behind the gate counter, and she sees me coming. And I get about 15 feet away, and she says to me in a loud voice, "That is not going on the plane with you," and turns away. And I thought, what? That is so weird. And I kind of did a right turn myself, and I thought about this for a minute, and I thought, well, you know what? She just doesn't know that I'm a professional musician. She just needs to know that. So I go back up to the gate counter, excuse me. I go back up to the gate counter. I give her a big smile. And I said, hey, you know what? I'm a professional musician. I've got an expensive guitar here in this case, and I need to get it on the plane because I have a concert in San Francisco, and I have to get there. And and she interrupts me again. And she says, no, I don't think you heard me. That is not going on the plane with you. And she walks off. So now I think, well, okay, this is going to be harder than I thought. I consider everything. Finally, I think, well, she's got to be just worried about the load. So I go back up to her. I give her a big smile. I say, hey, you know what? You're probably worried about the load. How about this? Sorry. How about this? We let everybody else get on the plane, and I'll get on last. And we'll see if there's room. I knew there would be room. It was one of those giant planes. There's always room. And she looks at me with a stone face, and she says, I've already told you twice that is not going on the plane with you. Now stop bothering me and decide what you're going to do. Okay, had to get a drink. So now I'm panicking. I'm really worried because people are boarding the plane. And I've got to get the guitar on the plane. I've got to get to San Francisco. I can't check it in this little case. And so I just resort to begging. I go up to her and I just start pleading. I said, look, can we just try? Can we talk to a flight attendant? Can we just see if there's room? Can we just give it a shot? What's the downside? There's no downside. Can we just try? Please, I'm really begging you here. Ice cold. You have two choices. You can leave it here or you can check it. It is not going on the plane with you. That's it. So I could tell she meant it. I handed her the guitar in my case and I said, okay, please ask the baggage guys to put it somewhere safe because it could get hurt so easily. Off she goes. I get on the plane. Turns out I'm sitting in the bulkhead seat. I'm sitting in the front row of coach, and across from me is the little jump seat with the flight attendant, and we're taxiing, preparing to take off, and that takes forever. So she and I start talking. I tell her the whole story about Attila, and she can't believe it. And she listens to the whole thing, doesn't interrupt, and when I'm finished, she says, you know what? I just have to apologize for our airline. This should not have happened. We're not like this. This is not how we treat musicians. We know your instruments are expensive, and we try to accommodate you. And on this flight, the closets are empty. There's absolutely plenty of room. This should never have happened, and I'm apologizing on behalf of everybody at our airline. Please don't hold it against us. I'm really sorry this happened. Then she got up to go to work. I felt better. I thought that was the end of it. But she evidently told all the other flight attendants, because when we get to San Francisco and it's my turn to get off the plane, I'm walking by the flight attendants. There's 7 of them. They're all lined up there. And they say, hey, wait a minute. Here's your guitar. They brought it up. And they give it to me. And I thought, oh. And it felt a little funny. So I said, wait a minute. Let's look at it. And we put it down. We unzipped it, opened the case. Shattered. Splinters. Not going to be played again. Just broken. I felt bad. They felt bad. 3 of them walked me down to baggage service. And they told baggage service, they said, we just had this guy on our flight. He got a bad deal. His guitar got broken. Should never have happened. We'll vouch for it. Here's our names, our employee numbers, our phone numbers. Please take care of him because this is wrong. It should never have happened. Very nice of them. And then they left because it was midnight and they had to work the next day or something. So they were all gone. So here I am at midnight in the bowels of the San Francisco airport with nobody around except this girl across the counter who looked about 12. And she says, she looks up at me with a sweet face and she says, I can't help you. I'm only 18. I work here, but I don't have authority to do anything like what you want. Now, if you want to come back tomorrow at 9 in the morning, the manager will be here and you can talk to her. And I suggest you do that, but I need to tell you before you leave, we have a company policy, very firm, never break it. Do not compensate for musical instruments. We do not do it. We never do it. You should know that before you come back. But she'll be here in the morning if you want to come back. So I left. I went to where I was spending the night. And you know how when you're upset, it can be hard to sleep. You've probably experienced that. My feelings for Attila were not something I could share with you outside of group therapy. And I couldn't get to sleep. I was pretty angry. I was pretty upset. I was pretty frustrated. And I got up in the morning exhausted from not sleeping. I felt horrible. All that anger stored up. Started driving out to the airport. I felt so bad. I just started praying. I said, God, you know what? I want to let this go. I'm going to let this go. All I'm asking is to be calm. I just want to be over this. Please just help me be calm. That's all I want. Whatever happens is fine. And it worked. I was calm. By the time I got to the airport, I felt fine. I was ready for whatever. The manager was there. She sat down. I told her the whole thing. I had everybody's names and numbers, including Attila, and I told her the whole story. And to her credit, she listened, didn't interrupt. And when I finished, she just kind of shook her head and said, "Wait a minute." She disappeared. Eventually, 15 minutes later, she came back with this other manager, this higher manager, this other woman, and they sit down and they said, "Look, we have a company policy. It's very firm. We don't compensate for musical instruments." I said, "I know. I heard that." And they said, "Well, we've talked it over, and we think we need to buy you a new guitar." I said, "Really?" They said, "Yep. Just find one you like. We'll pay for it." So I got out of there before they could say anything else. And I asked my musician friends in San Francisco, "Where do I go? I need a new guitar. Where do I get one?" And they said, "Really, there's only one good place. The best place is the Haight-Ashbury Music Store." Great. Off I go to Haight-Ashbury to find this guitar store. Now, Haight-Ashbury, I'm sure you've heard of it. Maybe you've been there. Maybe you've been there recently. But I'm from Kansas. Haight-Ashbury is like this little corner of the Twilight Zone, where you see the past and the present and the future all there on the sidewalk. It's all there. It's like a smorgasbord for the senses. And I'm just walking around Haight-Ashbury looking for this music store, getting a little high in the process, and finally I find it. And it turns out to be the best guitar store I've ever been in. They have great guitars, lots of them, and they have great salespeople. And for 2 days, they bring me guitars and they let me play them. And they don't hover, they don't bother me, but if I have questions, they know the answers. And finally, after a day and a half or a day and 3/4, they bring me this guitar. And as soon as I picked it up, I knew this was it. It felt so much different. It felt great. It fits my hand. It's easy to play. It sounds good acoustically and electronically. It's got great electronics in it. It's nice and light, a little smaller. It's a great guitar. They let me take it out of the store that night. They let me take it out of the store and do a concert. And that's when I knew for sure, this is my new guitar. Well, this is a way better guitar than my old guitar. The big blonde guitar, this one's way better. $600 more expensive than the old guitar. Totally paid for by the airline. Totally. And the thing is, I owe it all to Attila, the gate agent. You never know who's going to turn out to be an angel in your life. Sometimes they don't look like it at first. And when that happens, and I know it's happened to you, something like this has happened to you, you look back and you say, "Oh, that's why that happened," or "Oh, that's why that person was so difficult." It just blows my mind because it makes me feel like we're all connected in a way that we can't possibly understand. We just can't. We can't possibly ever figure that out. If the mystics are right, if God is everything, and every single thing, every atom is God, then everything has to be connected, right? And how could we ever intellectually get our minds around that, understand that, how connected we are with everything and everybody? That's a thought that fills me with wonder, a feeling of awe, the connectedness of everything, and how total it is. Fills me with awe and wonder, and I think wonder is the key word here. I really do. I think what the best scientists and the best mystics have in common is a sense of wonder at the workings of the universe, a sense of awe. And what the best of those have in common, the ones we remember as our teachers, is a sense of humor, the ability to take it all lightly. And this is what I think is the best attitude, the best approach for big mysteries, unanswerable questions that we might never be able to get our intellects around. A sense of humor, a sense of wonder. These are two places I have to go every day to stay healthy. Einstein said, if you're not experiencing a sense of wonder every day at the mystery of the universe, you're missing out. There's a German theologian named Karl Rahner, who I believe said something that I really like. He said there's two kinds of people in the world. People who need certainty and people who are seeking understanding. I would just suggest to you that it's better to be a seeker of understanding. For this reason, when you're sure you're right, you're stuck with what you already know. Make sense? When you're sure that you're right, the learning stops. You're stuck with what you already know. Well, I hope that makes sense. And I know we didn't get to all the mysteries. We didn't quite get to consciousness or free will or death or what women are really thinking. That's a joke. So, more to come back for, right? But I'd like to take the little bit that we have talked about into meditation. I'm just going to play a beautiful little chord progression here and recite some words that I think you'll appreciate. So why don't we take a nice deep breath, relax, and get ready to be quiet and silent and listen. You must give birth to your images. They are the future waiting to be born. Fear not the strangeness that you feel. For the point is to live everything. So live the questions now. So just rest now, just rest. Let me bring you trays of food, something cool to drink, and use my soft words as a cushion for your head. For this is the hardest work that you will ever do. This separation from God is the hardest work that you will ever do. Well, let's all take a nice big breath. Come back to the room, to your room, wherever you are. I'd like to finish up with one song about a disease I have occasionally, the disease of having to be right. Has anybody else ever had that one? Let's see. Yep, just about everybody. So before I play that song, which is called My Ride Home from Neptune, I just want to thank you again. I want to invite you to go to my website, gregtamblyn.com, sign up for my always fun, frequently helpful newsletter. You get 4 free song downloads, award-winning song downloads for signing up. And all of the songs that I have played today, A Brief History of God, passing trains. This meditation in instrumental form is a recording with words called Heart of the Mother. And this last song, My Ride Home from Neptune. These are all available, as well as many, many other songs and lots of other stuff. So I'd love to have you visit, leave a comment, whatever. And thank you again so much, Christine and Judy and everybody that helped out. I hope to come see you and share Atoms in person sometime soon, maybe 2022. All right, here we go. My Ride Home from Neptune. My ship crash landed on Neptune. I was stranded for 25 years. I was sad and alone. I was chilled to the bone. Sometimes I cried a few tears. I'd given up all hope of rescue, till one day from out of the sky, a ship came and landed on my lonely planet, and inside it there was this guy. He opened the door of his spacecraft, and he smiled right at me, and he waved. And I said, hallelujah. And he said, howdy do you? And then he said, friend, are you saved? I said, I thought that's what you're doing. He said, no, friend, I don't mean a ride. I mean saved by the Lord. And as I jumped on board, I said, sorry, I'm a new age kind of guy. Well, he gave me a lift back to Kansas. Made Neptune seem like a vacation. 'Cause all the way home, he was saving my soul, till I was moved to retaliation. I said, you know, I once felt as you do. And the shock made his eyes open wide. And he asked, well, when was that? And I said, oh, it was a while back. In fact, it was in a past life. And when I died in that life and found heaven, I learned that everybody gets in. There were Buddhists and Muslims and even Hindu followers. There were even astrologers. And then we all came back to earth and had to live again. And then I said, you're all wrong on the Bible too, 'cause you take it too literally. It's a beautiful story, but it's allegory. And Jesus was like you and me. Well, that really ticked him off badly. We argued so loud and so long. For the rest of the trip, we were flapping our lips, proving the other one wrong. Till about 1 week out from old Earth base, we were both too exhausted to care. There were 3 days of silence, fortunately no violence. And then he said, is there anything we share? Well, I looked at him with new respect then. I said, the one thing that I could think of. I said, between you and me, maybe we could agree that what God's all about is love. Well, he sat there a while without speaking. Then he said, yes, Jesus told us that's true. So we just talked about love. He even gave me a hug. We sang an old spiritual or two. Well, we got back to Earth, we were famous, 'cause they'd never seen such a sight. We did all the talk shows, wound up on Jerry Springer. And we were cool, but the audience had a fight. Well, the moral of this story is simple. If you think someone else is all wrong, just imagine you're stranded on one lonely planet, and one day your opposite comes along.